Are you one of those that's scared of what other people think of you? And are you scared of what people will think of you if you take a jump, take a risk on something that you love? We all want to be recognized as individuals who have a personality that is completely different from what conforms us to the standards of what people think of us. And that's something that we need to become aware of. I've had times in my life where literally what other people thought of me was something that bothered me or something that made me fearful of ever breaking those standards that those peers had set for me or what my family members thought of me. And I was always living in that cage, in that box of what they thought of me or what they thought that I could be. And eventually I realized later in life that those opinions of what other people thought of me were standards that they had set for me, that I had not yet allowed myself to overcome them. That we literally conform to what other people think of us because we allow their opinions to actually reach us in a way that could stop us from reaching our true potential. We're limited in that box of what other people are thinking of us. And eventually we have to come to a point in our lives where we have to break free from those standards that people have set on us. Because if you ever want to become a person of value, if you ever want to become a person who has to realize their own personal power, their own personal potential, their own personal identity that could enhance their lives in a way that would make them more fulfilling, that would make them more lovable, that would make them more giving to the world, then eventually you're gonna have to reach a point where you have to stop caring about what other people think of you. And it's not easy. It's something that you have to work on. You have to literally break those standards that you are conforming to in your own mind. When you become bigger in your own thinking, when you begin to start developing that part of you that is always trying to make the best out of all situations, that's the kind of spirit, that's the kind of power that gives rise to that individual that is at service to yourself. The more you are at service to yourself, the more you allow yourself to recognize your own abilities, the more you allow yourself to cultivate your own strengths that are somehow being not identified by the peers and the family members that are around you. Because see, not everybody has the privilege of having a good family. Not everybody has the privilege of having great friends. Not everybody has the privilege of associating with people that are looking out for the best for them. And that's why we have to recognize our own selves, that how much are we at service to ourselves. The more you allow yourself to give more time to your peers and your family members, and if they're not giving back the same kind of energy, then eventually you will find yourself in a state where you will always feel less than enough. And that is what takes away your soul power. That's what takes away your personal power, that you're not able to receive what you're always offering. How do we get rid of what other people think of us? And the best way that I've recognized for myself is that the way that you can actually overcome other people's opinion is when you allow yourself to build a philosophy for yourself. You have to develop a personal philosophy for your own self, and that means that you have to spend increasingly more and more time with yourself, because then you will recognize some things about yourself that will enhance your capabilities, that will enhance and strengthen your distinguishing power that separates you from everyone else. And that is what will bring out the best out of you, and that is what is going to help you to generate that power which will eventually bring into being that self that has its own standards of living. And your standard of living will be generated from your personal philosophy. Your personal philosophy must be dependent on how you see the world, and the world that you see and how it can benefit you. Your personal philosophy must be made on that. How that world will benefit you depends on the fact that how well are you able to sustain your philosophies, how well are you able to actually live by your philosophy, how well are you able to say that this is something that I do and this is something that I don't do. And that is going to help you to recognize that power within yourself, which is going to help you to make you develop that personality of yours into something which people will look at and they will find something valuable and something that literally will make them want to respect you for the person that you have become. And it takes a lot of discipline, it takes a lot of self-discipline, and self-discipline is nothing but directing your thoughts in the right direction, and those thoughts must be directed in the direction of how your future should be. And that is what is going to help you to realize that if you focus on just one thing that brings you alive, something that you love to do, something that you admire as a project that would bring you more fulfillment, that would bring you more joy, that would bring you the ability to recognize some of the things about the marketplace in which you could actually become more valuable, and something that interests you, something that grasps your interest. And the more you do that, self-discipline is something but automatic, something that develops for itself. When you begin to do those things, eventually your thinking will work in the direction of your preferred ways of living. And trust me, life is all about bringing out that part of you that would help you to recognize your true abilities, that will help you to recognize some of the things that might be holding you back. And life is always challenging us so that we can break the conformity that we are bound to. And remember that opinions matter to people that don't matter. And the people that are always finding faults in you and always are trying to pull you down and push you down and somehow keeping you in that place where you feel just enough. As long as you're dependent on someone or something, then you have to really match your standards to them. So that's why we feel that we are bound to other people's opinions, because you are conforming to those standards, because you are dependent on those people as a way to actually propel your life. As long as you feel dependent on the people that are around you, you will always feel that those people are somehow gonna give you the best life, or that dependency is so deeply embedded that you cannot actually find your way through. Because if you do actually find your way through, you'll lose out on those associations that you've spent so much time building. And that's the point that you have to realize, that you must be able to leave those people to themselves that are making you dependent on them, because eventually that's exactly what they want. They want that you always live under them. Do you always want somebody to control you? Do you always want someone as a tyrant? And what if you are also a tyrant to yourself? Maybe you are, maybe you are not. Who knows? Maybe you're always putting yourself down because you yourself are a tyrant. And so you need people that can boss you around, so that eventually you can actually boss yourself around by pushing yourself down. So it's somehow a game that we play with ourselves. And as long as you're becoming dependent on people, you will find yourself being pulled down by those people, because they feel that you are a burden, and you yourself do not realize that you are being a burden on them. And eventually those people will always keep you in that place, because somehow they can feel more powerful in that place of dependency. And that's when you realize that you have to separate yourself from those people. That's when you realize that you have to develop your personal power, and from your personal power you will have the capacity to separate yourself from that crowd that's somehow keeping you under their spell. That's something that's not easy to do. And if you do not do that in this lifetime, then I can guarantee you will always be bossed around, because you don't govern yourself, because you have no identity of governing yourself. You have no personal power to govern yourself, because you always want somebody to tell you what to do. And as long as you are always looking out for what you should be doing, you will always be under their command. And in no way will you ever be taking a chance or a risk on yourself, because eventually if you do take a chance or a risk on yourself, you will see yourself pointing towards them, that how they will feel about you taking a chance on yourself. And that is exactly what will stop you from ever pushing yourself beyond what they think of you. And it's something that you need to recognize that for yourself. And you have to recognize that for yourself by realizing the fact that if you attend to your own service, if you attend to your own self, the service of self means that you are allowing yourself to see what is it that somehow that I cannot have in this life, and write it down. Then create your personal philosophy to overcome that. And once you develop your personal philosophy based on what you want, then you will find yourself applying your personal power. Then you will find yourself applying that personal philosophy in your life, and from there you will say no to things that do not follow that path that you have set for yourself. It's going to give you more power. When you say no to that person will force you for a reason, and the reason that you'll give is what comes out from your personal philosophy. And what comes out from your personal philosophy will determine the way you are going to have either a fulfilling life or you're going to have a miserable life. It all depends on you. Remember that opinions matter to those that don't matter. And if you realize that you are somebody who has a reason to continue to propel yourselves, to always develop themselves, that you always have to develop yourself, and that is the road that you must take for yourself. That is the road you must seek for recognizing in what way can I actually overcome my weaknesses. How can I overcome my weakness? How can I say no to that person? How can I become more authentic? How can I become more myself? How can I speak? How can I express better? How can I do those things that maybe other people are doing that I would like to do myself? Ask those questions to yourself. Recognize that what people think of you is of least importance, but if you allow what they think of you, then that's what becomes a bigger problem. So that's all for today. I'm going to see you in my next video. Thank you so much for joining in. And don't forget to hit the like and subscribe button, because I'm going to be coming up with more such videos just like this. Thank you so much.